Heather from booktubes, and today is entitled Readers versus Authors. I want to cover a few different points. This is by no means an all-encompassing discussion video. It's not going to cover all of the issues that we see pop up, but these are all things that I have actively seen authors or readers say where they are a direct attack on the other, and I kind of just wanted to talk about this issue in general. Now, I will say that this entire video can pretty much be summed up in treat people with basic human decency, respect people's boundaries, don't go out of your way to let them know that you think their product is trash or that they are a trash human being. There's just many common sense human decency boundary things that kind of avoid all of these issues, if you will. But we're going to dive into some specifics. Now, I will say too right up front that I personally feel like readers and authors don't actually owe each other anything. An author doesn't owe you a book. They don't owe you a timeline. They don't even owe listening to you, right? You would definitely have authors who write truly terrible representations and terrible books, and they got feedback that, hey, this is terrible, and they wrote it anyways. That's your right, you can do that. Also, readers don't have to read any books, period. So we don't owe each other anything, but at the same time, we are a symbiotic relationship. We need each other in order to thrive. Number one, readers do not have to finish books. That's right, point number one is DNF. Very on brand. Readers don't owe you 50 pages, 100 pages, 10 chapters, 3 chapters. They don't owe you to finish the book. They don't owe to give you a chance. They can open the first page and decide that this book is not for me, and they can leave. They can leave at the 70 or 90% mark because they're really mad about a choice that you made, and yeah, you're probably going to resolve at the end, but you know what? They're just mad. They don't even care. They don't want to see the resolution, and they can DNF then. A lot of times, obviously, authors will have character arcs where maybe the character starts off as very unlikable, but maybe ends up growing as a person. But at the same time, readers don't owe you the read to get to that point. If they decide they don't like this character on page 5 and they want to stop reading, they can, even though you're like, but if you stay, you get to see their growth. But not everybody's going to do that, and they don't have to. You don't owe an author any amount of pages read. You just don't. I feel like reviews are a very sticky situation where our paths cross, and it often ends in conflict. Readers don't owe authors reviews, right? At all. You can rate the book or mark it as read without rating it. You don't have to write a review. You don't have to write a review on Goodreads, Storygraph, Amazon, any of the places, the author's individual website. You don't have to. You don't have to. You can post the picture of the book on Instagram without saying a single solitary thing about it if you want. So you don't owe authors reviews. At the same time, if you really do love a book, reviews do really help authors, right? The more reviews they have on Goodreads, the better. The more reviews they have on Amazon, the more that Amazon will actually show their book. Now, I don't know about you, but if you are searching a title in Amazon, it will often show you multiple books ahead of the exact title that you typed in. Especially, I find for me with indie romances, and I read a lot of books by authors of color, very few times are they the first result for putting in their book and their name. It's very frustrating. But also, if they have 50 reviews on Amazon, that's kind of Amazon's base level for the algorithm picking them up. So it is really helpful if you leave a review for a book that you loved. At the same time, you don't owe an author a review. On top of that, you do not owe an author a good review. Be honest about the book, and this is easier said than done sometimes. Whether because you know the author, you have many friends who have read and loved the book, or it's a very hyped book and you don't really want to go against public opinion, it can be more difficult. There have definitely been books that, looking back, I was like, that was rounded up. That was a little too high. I didn't actually love it that much. I will say, for me, I don't think I ever feel that I rate a book too low. I'm definitely a high rater. I do try to be honest, and I try to really kind of keep things even, not have it like I hated this book and I loved this book, but they got the same rating, you know? But at the same time, some authors really truly believe that you should not leave a review unless it's a 4 or a 5 star. And I will even say some reviewers feel that way. But that's not true. Number 1, 3 is a nice medium, middle of the road rating. It's not a scarlet leather. It's fine. But then also, I don't enjoy watching people who constantly read books that they dislike. It's just, I just don't like it. Something about it bugs me. Not every book that you read is a 5 star, and I say that as somebody who usually has many 5 stars every single month. Again, I'm generous with my ratings. I rate highly. I do not reserve 5 stars only for the best of all time books. But at the same time, if you never write anything low, like never write anything low, then people aren't going to believe you either. You sometimes have to say how much you disliked a book or how much a particular part annoyed you, because that's reality. Not all books are for you as an individual with the things you enjoy and your own perspective. Like they're not all going to be 5 stars. I think that it is very odd though when authors take a negative review, a 1 star or 2 star review, and take that as a personal attack, and how they feel like authors are having a rough time too, you should be nice. Like, no, they're reviewing a product. They're not reviewing your baby. They're not reviewing you as an individual. They are reviewing a product. And it's often encouraged for authors to avoid reviews. I'm sure if I were an author, I would have difficulty avoiding them. My curiosity would definitely be provoked, but reviews aren't for authors, they're for other readers, and people are going to rate your book 1 star. There's not going to be books where 0 ratings are 1 star. Another weird take I've seen from authors is worst of the year lists, that again is a personal attack, and wow, the pandemic, the world is suffering, and you're making a list of your worst books of the year and I'm on it and I am personally offended by this. Like, no, a lot of times rant videos are entertaining and fun, and honestly I find them to show me a more rounded version of the person that I am watching, right? And I really enjoy them. Again, some here, some there. I don't watch all rant reviews. I don't watch people who are literally just picking apart every book that they read. It really truly does annoy me. But to have a list of 10 books out of your entire year that you're just like, this was terrible, here's what I hated about it, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not tagging the author in it. That author shouldn't be watching it. It's good. It's for other readers, and it's funny, and it's entertainment, and that is just media. You don't owe an author to read their book just because you like them as a person. I sometimes struggle with this. I have many authors that I enjoy following. I enjoy their opinions, really actually value their opinions. I think that their word holds weight, right? I respect them as people. I really enjoy following them on social media. And I've tried their books and they're not for me. And they should be for me because they're romance, right? But they're not for me. I don't really love it. It doesn't really work for me. And I do like them. Liking their work and liking them as a person can be separate. Now, I personally don't really read authors who I can't support as people, if that makes sense. So I'm not saying it in that way, but I'm saying I can really love the author and I don't owe them to read their book. Lastly, for the reader side, I don't think that you owe authors a second chance. I know lots of people say that you do, that you absolutely should give authors a second chance. If I had never given this author a second chance, I never would have found my favorite book, yada, yada, yada. All of those things are true. That doesn't mean that you owe them a second chance. You absolutely do not have to try authors more than one time. If it didn't work for you, keep on moving. The TBR is never ending. You're never going to run out of books to read. You don't have to give people a second chance, especially like very hyped authors that you're just like, oh, I just can't get into them. Yeah, you can't get into them. They're not for you. Why are you still trying? I don't understand it. I have mentioned it many times. It is not a thing that I do. It's not a thing that I promote. You don't owe them a second chance. Next, the author side of things. Authors don't owe readers a response. They don't. You can call them out as much as you want. They don't owe you a response. You can DM them or email them. They don't owe you a response. I do DM quite a few authors to try and find anticipated releases for my videos. I don't do it every month. I do try and pay attention to their schedule, right? So the authors that I have read multiple of their releases, I kind of know their schedule. I know if they're a once every month author, if they're every 2 months, every 3 months, and or if they told me in February that their book wouldn't be out until April, I'm not going to message them for March. So I often won't message them if they just had a release that week or whatever. I just assume, hey, we've got some time. The exception to this is Jessica Gaziella. I feel really bad. And I'm sure I shouldn't feel really bad because, like, we're mutuals. We understand each other. But I always message her for anticipated releases, and if it's a series of hers that I'm actively interested in or reading, I include it in my video. However, she publishes every month, but she publishes really late in the month, like the 25th, the 26th, and there. And that is the week that I'm recording my anticipated release video. I record it on Sunday, so it just depends which day of the week it falls. But I also have to message people a day or two ahead of filming so that I can get the response before filming. So like in February, I messaged her the day of her release to ask about her next book. I was like, happy release day, but what's next? And I did feel a little bit bad, but also, like, she knows I'm trying to give her free promotion. I'm not, like, greedy or ungrateful. I'm honestly just trying to give you free promotion. That's it. But it's weird to me how readers will be messaging authors like, when is your next book? When they just had one come out. Books are not an instantaneous product. They take time. I just find it rude. But also, like, authors, it does depend on the size of their social media platform, but most authors have a full-time job and they also write and they also do social media. To expect them to be constantly on social media means that they have to be neglecting other parts of their life, including the writing that you want from them. So I just find it weird to expect an answer from an author or to hold it against them if they don't respond to you. They don't have to. Also, authors don't owe you a book. They don't owe you a book this year. They don't owe you a book this decade. They don't owe you a book this month. They definitely don't owe you the book that you want them to write. They don't owe you the next in a series that you're interested in, but they're over here working on this series and you're like, no, stop working on that series. Come back over to my favorite. Like, you're not in charge. I don't know what to tell you. Authors don't owe you any specific book or a book at all. I'm very grateful when an author publishes something that I love. I'm so happy about it, but they don't owe it to me. And just because I love one of their series and don't really care about the other doesn't mean that they should only be publishing my favorite series. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's not all about you. Authors don't owe you character clarification. I think that this is interesting. I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with asking for clarification about something that you want to know. But I don't think that authors owe you the birthday or the astrological sign for a character. They don't owe you a backstory that they hinted at. They don't owe you anything. I definitely think that there are lines with authors dragging reviewers, right? Or dragging their readers' DMs or emails. Especially because a lot of times the authors will have a much larger platform and you are attacking somebody with a much smaller following, and you're also sending your fans who might be very rabid after a smaller creator. So there are definitely lines where authors should not be replying to reviewers or to readers. However, I do think that authors are more than allowed to respond and to put on blast racist things that are sent to them, ableist things that are sent to them, any of the isms, any of the prejudices. You're allowed to defend yourself against that, and you're allowed to defend yourself against that publicly. Just because you're an author with a large platform doesn't take that right away from you. I absolutely think that authors are allowed to do that. One thing I do find very weird for readers to do is to make the review like a criticism, almost like they are grading a book report, where they are saying all the things that the author could have done differently and like just correcting everything to fit the book the way that they would want it. And like, you're not the beta reader. You're not the editor. I don't understand why you are like giving the author constructive criticism back in your review. Your review is not for the author. They didn't hire you. You're reviewing for other readers. That being said, I do think that reader feedback is very important when it comes to representation. We just saw the whole mess with Cora Riley and all the ableist language that she used. And she really just doubled down and defended it and made herself the victim. And I understand that she probably was genuinely upset. But it was all handled so poorly. I don't think that the disabled community was wrong to point all those things out. They were right. She was using ableist language and they were asking her to change it and saying, hey, this isn't good. This bothers me. This honestly causes me a lot of distress. And it wasn't just like one outlier person. Everybody that I know thought that it was bad, right? But then you have people attacking the creators who called her out because she canceled her book, even though nobody asked her to cancel her book. They asked her to fix the language. I think a lot of people are viewing that as haters, and they're not. You're allowed to say, hey, this is racist. Hey, this is ableist. Hey, this is not a good representation of us. Like, that is very fair. That is something that should exist. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying the people who write a review like they're grading a book report. I find that weird. So there you go. Those are kind of the things that I had written down. I think that it comes down to an individual basis, as do most things. Some readers are very entitled and treat authors horribly, and some authors are very entitled and treat readers horribly. But what are some examples that maybe you've seen or things that you agree or disagree with that I said? Let me know. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.